What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Back Your Play with Q. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. Don't forget, get social with us at Rich Q on Q on the YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q. Got to keep the boxing talk moving. We've done so much with the NFL and the NBA this week, but we're filling a lot of space and a lot of time. Talk a little sweet science. And look at this. We finally figured out the time difference with our next guest, a great boxer. Very good follow as well on social media. Linn Sandstrom, super flyweight, ranked 10th in the world, doing a wonderful job. Still early on in the career, but it's great to finally catch up with you. You're on the West Coast now, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we just landed in LA a couple of days ago. And yeah, it's cold, but we love it here.
How long did it take you to get acclimated time-wise with your body? Because I saw you posted as soon as you landed, it looked like you went right in the gym.
Yeah, we landed 6 a.m. in the morning and then straight into the gym at Wildcard. But it's actually not too bad. It's better than when we went to fight in London, the jet lag. You just want to stay up longer when you're here. Rather than falling asleep in the middle of the day. So not too bad, but it still affects you, obviously. I had to spar on Monday morning, like 2 days after we land, and yeah, that was pretty rough.
Wow. So I know you've had a handful of fights on your belt. I want to get into that in a moment, but correct me if I'm wrong, you were born in Brazil?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I'm born in Brazil, but I'm raised in Sweden. So I'm adopted from Brazil. So I came to Sweden when I was a baby, and now I live in Australia since 7 years back.
Wow. So imagine you got to sit somebody down and you open up the big map and you say, okay, here's point 1 to point 2 to point 3. So do you speak Portuguese?
No, I don't. That's the embarrassing part. Everyone thinks I do. Obviously, I'm Brazilian, but I haven't learned yet, but it's on the to-do list.
Okay, that's good. Rosetta Stone, that's the easiest, fastest way.
Yeah.
What part of Sweden did you reside in?
So the town is called Växjö. It's like a small country town. But yeah, it was a good place to grow up in. And yeah.
Is that don't laugh, I'm horrible with geography. Is that what they call the Kronoberry County?
Yes, it is actually. Yeah, wow. Impressive.
Yeah, well, once in a while. Other than that, you ask me somewhere else. I mean, I have to do my due diligence. I've researched a little bit, but for some reason, maybe I saw it on Jeopardy in the States and I just remembered it. So now this is crazy. So you're a fighter, you're a boxer, but you had a background in table tennis?
Yeah, that's correct. So table tennis back in Sweden is massive. We have some really good players over there. In Europe in general, like England, Germany, table tennis is big sport. And yes, I started playing when I was 12, which is pretty late for being like an elite player. So when I started, people were telling me like, oh, you're starting too late. You will never be good in the sport. And I don't like getting told that I can't do anything. So then I said to them, look, I'm going to prove you wrong. Because I remember my coach at that time, my table tennis coach, he took me to a competition and he showed me the best girls at that tournament. And that he goes, look, this is the level, like this is where you need to be at. And I remember that day. I even remember like what they wore, how they looked like. And then he trained me for a full summer. And after that, after 2 years, I think I became a part of the national teams, which these girls were also a part of.
Wow. So in the States, we call it ping pong.
Yeah.
I don't know if that bothers you, if you prefer table tennis.
No, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I mean, in New York, you have Spin New York. It's a massive sport bar ran by Susan Sarandon.
There you look, not bad. That's pretty good. But it's funny when you said, they said you're too old, like you peaked at age 12. It's not like you were a gymnast or something. Like I didn't know it was so competitive where if you didn't start doing it when you were 4 or 5, you plateaued already. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I managed to do that. But then I went to an elite school back in Sweden. So there was different kind of sports like soccer, tennis, basketball, table tennis was one of them. So we could we could train and practice during school hours, and they also allow us to compete. You know, if we missed our school day because of competition, like we were allowed to do that. And so then when I graduated, I actually got an award as the best athlete from the whole school with good grades. So yeah, I've done some sports before I started boxing.
No, it's just like I said, it's because sometimes, you know, you might picture a person or you want to learn about their background, and then there's just something that when you do a little digging and you're like, oh, wow, all right, this is something that's really interesting to kind of talk about, because I would imagine during your fights, it's brought up, you would think, during the broadcast and whatnot. What made you, though, want to transition? Because I guess obviously in table tennis, ping pong, you know, I guess you're only in danger of getting hit in the head with the ball here and there. But
Yeah.
I mean, and then all of
And
a
that
sudden,
hurts.
oh,
Let me
really?
tell you. Yeah, sometimes it hurts more
But
getting hit by a table tennis ball than it does by getting punched in the face.
I see in the Olympics, they really crank up those shots, man. They really
Yeah.
do.
Now they like the level that, you know, you gotta obviously be at world level, but one of the kids that I played in, I used to coach him a little bit as well. He's number 3 in the world, and he's only 18 or 19 years old at the moment.
Wow.
He's unbelievable if you watch him play.
So, what made you transition into boxing?
Well, so basically, I did table tennis, but because I was a female, I didn't get paid. I had to pay to play, even though I was one of the best players in the country. And I'm like, you know what? Because I saw all of these males around me in the gym, in the club, and I was training just as hard as them. You know, I had the same coach, everything, and they got paid and could live of it. And I couldn't. So I said, you know what, screw this. Like I put all of my life into it. I can't do it no more because I'm not getting paid. So I started studying marketing. So I have a bachelor in marketing for 3 years. But the thing was, when I stopped playing table tennis, I kind of lost my identity, because everyone in the city, in my hometown, you know, that I was known as the girl who played table tennis. You know, every week there was articles about me in the newspapers and this and that. So then, yeah, I just decided to move to Australia after I finished my bachelor and try something new. And I walked up and down the street where I moved into this brand new apartment, beautiful, in Sydney. And I saw these boys building a gym on the street that I lived on. So I'm like,
Wow.
should I just go in? And at that stage, I've gained heaps of weights as well, because when I played table tennis, practicing like 6 hours every single day, to gone to doing no sports at all. You know, I turned a bit chubby at that stage. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna walk into the gym, and I did. And again, the second I stepped into the gym, this guy comes up to me, and one of the best fighters in the gym, and he's looking at me and he's like, you want to be a boxer? There is no way you're going to become a boxer. And there I was again, having to prove someone wrong. You know what? I can do this sport. I want to do this sport. And here I am now, world rated and everything.
Did you have any amateur fights before you turned pro?
I did. So when I started training after, I think, 9 weeks, I had my first amateur, or 12 weeks. And then my coach wanted to kind of test me out. So he put me in my first 3 fights with 3 kilos heavier girls with heaps more experience. So I got absolutely bashed. My first 3 amateurs I lost, crying, everything. And he goes, when he finally put me in with a girl, you know, my experience and my level of boxing, my weight class, I won. And he goes to me afterwards. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why would you want to see me losing to these girls? And he goes, you look, I just want to test your dedication if you truly want to do boxing, because this is not table tennis anymore. You know, like you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had roughly, I think, 15 or 20 amateurs, something around there. And then yeah, I said to my coach, or he told me as well, like, we're ready to turn pro. I got a really good offer to do so on one of the biggest shows in Australia, so I took it.
Wow. It's funny you mentioned that he kind of tested you, because a lot of times, especially from amateurs, once you lose the headgear, different gloves, you start to get popped in the head a little bit, totally different animal. But I think that also helped you a little earlier in your career, because I believe your first fight you lost, correct?
Yeah, first 3 fights I lost. Yeah.
So what's your, all right. So the first one, walk us through the first fight of your career. You're in there, you're making the walk up to the ring. What are you feeling? And then of course, that first time when you get hit.
I was shitting bricks walking out the ring. Like I was so nervous. And I remember amateur boxing. So basically it wasn't boxing. It was just a full-on brawl, throwing a million punches in 9 minutes. That's it. But then I remember also coming to the corner and I was exhausted after 3 minutes. I was completely done. So now it's pretty cool to have made that transition. I mean, my last fight as a pro was a 10-rounder.
Yeah.
So gone from dying as an amateur to now being able to love it.
So I guess a lot of times too, with, I don't want to say in age, but younger fighters, if they do suffer some losses, it can deter them. They can get discouraged. I mean, so you talk about losing multiple fights early on in your career. Was there any point where you're like, I'm just going to go back to table tennis?
Look, the most devastating for me was actually my pro debut because I lost it. So I got approached by the biggest promoter we have in the country to make my pro debut on their show. I don't think they've had barely any girls on their shows before. So for them to approach me and also being pretty new in the sport was massive. And I think we have something in Australia, it's called tall poppy syndrome. And a lot of people straight away went like, oh, why are you picking this girl? Why not me? I've had more experience. I've had hundreds of amateurs. Like, why don't you give me this opportunity? So I was not prepared to get that much attention, even if it was positive or people talking negative. I was not prepared for it. So basically I've had to fight 100 million fights outside of the boxing ring before I even stepped in the ring in front of 16,000 people in my pro debut. And for me, it was so overwhelming. I can still, until this day, not remember 1 second of the fight. No, 1 second. I remember walking into the ring, standing in the ring, seeing my name in front of all of this arena. And that's it. After that, it's a blackout. But in saying that, yeah, it's just a full-on blur. But in saying that, though, now 10 fights deep in my career, it's probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
That fight was against Jessica Cashman, correct? Your pro debut?
Yeah.
So what did you call that syndrome? What was it called again?
Tall poppy syndrome.
What is that again?
So it's basically, you know, when you have like a bush or like flowers like this, and you want everything to be at the same level. If something stands up, you chop them right off. And that's what happened. And I mean, at that stage as well, women's boxing wasn't that big. And I've been creating noise ever since I stepped my foot into a boxing gym. You know, I got sponsored by Adidas pretty much straight away when I came into the game. I had sponsors since I was an amateur, and people just couldn't wrap their head around like, what is this girl doing? And you know, I think a lot of people maybe didn't know that I have a background in marketing. I'm going to use everything I have to make myself as marketable as possible, and you got to use that in boxing. You know, we got to promote ourselves outside the ring, inside the ring. And when I first started, I knew that I want to learn as much as possible. So I said to my coach, look, if you train me properly, because I remember I saw my coach, he was training this girl in the gym. She's a 3-time world champion. I saw them training, and I know a good trainer when I see it. And I just saw it to myself, I need this coach. So I said, look, if I do your social media for your gym, will you train me? And he said, I thought he was going to say like, yeah, once a day or something, like once a week, I will train you. And that would have been good enough for me. And he said, yeah, if you show up 8 a.m. every single morning, I will train you. But I don't think he was prepared for, if you tell me 8 a.m. every single morning, I'm going to be there 7:30 every single morning and show up every single day. And that was 7 years ago, and I'm still doing it.
That's a great trade-off. So 2 things. And I'll give you credit. I'm going to borrow sometime that poppy syndrome. Okay. I'm going to use it during a broadcaster. So I will pay homage to you. I don't know if you're going to get royalties out of it, right? So, but
well, it's an Australian saying, so I can't really claim it, but yeah.
There you go, right? There's no trademark infringement. We're okay. And the second thing is, to your point about marketing yourself, especially when it comes to female boxing. I mean, years ago, I can go back 7, 8 years ago when I started to interview a lot of female fighters, even amateurs, and then call fights, went to Canada, did a North American card, their first that they've ever done. And now I've kind of seen the influx, right? The growth when it comes to women's boxing. And the marketing is interesting because there's two schools of thought. The old heads will say there's the right way to do it. And then the new school where it's more social media, right? Your IG, your Twitter, your TikTok, whatever. In some cases, fans only for some, whatever. That's the new, like, I kind of see you kind of quietly just, you go about your business, right? You
Yeah.
don't really chirp,
No.
you, and again, it's not for everyone, right? You want to come off a certain way, but at the end of the day, you're right. You have to play the game a little bit. Did you ever feel when you see what's going on, especially in the States with female boxing, and then all over the world, when we see the influx, when we start to talk about the really, really good names, and if we're talking about the Shields or the Estradas or the Serranos or the Cruzes or the Mayos or the Baumgartners, and you start to see how they do things on social media, do you ever say, you know what? Well, I've had to play the game for a long time now. Maybe I should just start calling out people, or, barking at people, or, doing something that maybe would be out of character, or that just wasn't for you?
Look, I mean, at the moment, I have 65,000 followers on Instagram. My videos, when I post a video of me training, and it's not me naked or in my underwear or anything like that. It's me training, full on training. It reaches millions of views, and that's just me doing me. Like you said, I'm not a person to call anyone out or making a big noise, but me just doing me reaches millions of people. And that's also me not being promoted yet by Matchroom or Top Rank or, a big promoter. That's just me doing me. So imagine the impact I would actually have when the second I get signed by someone.
It's over.
I swear to you, I'm going to be one of the faces to be reckoned with in women's boxing for sure.
Listen, I don't doubt it. I've watched some of your fights on YouTube. I know that you like to work behind the jab a little bit. I know you have a little edge to you too, when you get pushed a little bit. What are some of the things? You're in the States right now, you're out West, you're training. So what's next for you? I know you had to fight Marjanovic, I think it was back in October, right?
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Look, I'm here now. It's my first camp actually I'm doing with my coach as well. So he's here also. We're in Manny Robles' gym in East LA. And yesterday we had a sparring session. It was me, Ramla Ali, Yokasta Vale, and Jessica Bob. So it's like a gym full of champions. So for me at the moment, I don't even have a fight locked in. We're working on seeing which promoter we're going to go with, because like I said, now I'm at that level where my fights are going to be massive, and I want big fights. I want to be broadcast, over in the States, in Europe. I just don't want to fight in Australia anymore. I feel like it's too small, and the fights are over here. So basically my team is just working on finding that promoter who I'm going to go with. And in the meantime, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm already cutting weight, even though I'm not even in camp, and I'm getting world-class sparring over here. So yeah, we just trying to find out what's next.
Do you also believe, how will you determine whether it's, Matchroom or Hearn or Top Rank or whomever, how will you determine what the best fit is for you? Is this something where you would sit down with your team? Because I know a lot of times, the one thing about, I've learned this from covering female fights as well and calling fights for years. It doesn't matter if you turn pro at 29, 30, 31, because a lot of times with women's boxing, and you can attest to this, you need a handful of fights. You can fight for regional belts. You can fight for world titles. You don't need 15, 20 something odd fights. You just don't. So obviously 10, 11, 12, then all of a sudden, the bigger the purse, the bigger the payday, the bigger of opportunity. Do you feel as though you're running out of time? I mean, you're relatively young. Do you put more pressure on yourself? And then when it comes to what I just asked about, what's going to be the best fit for you? What are you looking for in a promoter that would be a good fit that makes sense for you?
Look, obviously the promoter needs to be able to put me on this show, put up the money so that I can do this big fight, say in the States or in Europe, wherever it might be, you know, and also be able to promote me in a really good way. Like I said, I managed to self-promote myself in a very good way at the moment. I have approximately 3.5 million views of just one of my weigh-ins, but I will just listen to my team, the guidance that they are giving me, and then go in that direction.
And then are you going to try to be as active as possible? I mean, if you can obviously get some of the fights in the States, that's what you want to do, right?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like even the travel, like I said, the jet lag is for me going here, it's a 14 hours flight. And I've been traveling. Last year, I went to Mexico, Costa Rica, LA, Philippines twice, all over the world for boxing. So I'm used to the travel, you know, it doesn't bother me. And I'm all in, you know, it's not, you know, I'll do a little bit of boxing, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Nah, I know that if I'm going to make it, I got to be all in, and I am. So
what do you think eventually down the road, if they open it up to 3-minute rounds for women's for women as opposed to the 2-minute rounds?
look, for me, it doesn't really matter. I like the 2-minute rounds. I can do 3-minute rounds as well. Yeah, I don't feel like for me personally, it makes any difference.
I
I
guess
managed to stop a few girls, even with the 2-minute rounds. But I guess I'm pretty strong for my weight category as well. But I know a lot of the girls are saying they want 3-minute rounds. But for me personally, no, I don't really have an opinion.
yeah, I guess the adage is if you're going to give me 3-minute rounds, I can get more, you know, purse, so to speak. We can get a better split.
Yeah.
So right now you're getting your training in, you're just waiting to see what's going to happen. You're not worried about the poppy syndrome. You're just kind of doing.
Nah. Look, I've grown so much skin on my nose, and I'm actually happy I've gone through everything I did early in my boxing. You know, so many people wanting to see me fail, so many people close to me wanting to see
But
me
why
fail.
is that though?
That I don't.
Why? I don't explain this to me. Like, I understand everyone's got haters, and when somebody wants to do something new, and I go, and I say this with respect, maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe it's where you're from. I mean, look, there's haters all over the place. We get it. When something's new, when something's different, people don't like it because they're not familiar with it. And it bothers them.
Yeah.
It concerns them. It scares them a little bit. But the way you carry yourself, I would just suspect that people would be like, hey, you know what, Lynn, go at it. Good luck.
Yeah, no, I think you will have to ask them, to be honest. I mean, I can, with my hand on my heart, said that, you know, I've never done anything to offend anyone. And I know that for myself, one thing that was very important to me was that if I saw a bad comment or, you know, people talking trash or whatever it was, I've never said anything back because I've been so determined to just focus on myself. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people do, and a good advice that I can give a lot of people as well, like, do you and focus on you. You know, don't be that person that be like, why not me, why not me, why does she get it and I don't, and blah blah blah. You know, you gotta just put your head down and focus on yourself. I've worked with some world-class mindset coaches, and I still am, obviously guiding me through this process, and that helped me massively. But even now, the people in the past, a couple of years ago, you know, didn't want to see me succeed, are now the people that are messaging me, congratulating me, or wishing me good luck on my trip. So it's pretty cool as well if you just push through, see where you can come. Because I remember all of my girlfriends, when I told them what was happening, you know, there were days where I was crying, and they say, why don't you just quit? Like, we do not get it, just quit, stop doing this sport. And I said, there is no chance in hell that I'm quitting. And look at me now. Like I said, I'm in LA sparring some of the best fighters in the world. I'm ranked number 9 in the world, and I truly do believe I'm going to become a world champion in this sport, and I never ever gave up. So yeah, that should be a good example for a lot of people.
No doubt. And listen, I would say too, for the naysayers out there, you probably carry around your table tennis paddle. You know, you just give them a little, anyone starts slighting you a little bit, you just make sure you tell them, look, here's my background.
Or yeah, or I just give him my left hand.
Yeah, there you go. That too. 2 more for you, and I appreciate the time. Are there any fighters that maybe you've watched that you like their styles, or you try to emulate yourself? after, or your style is your own?
I think my style is my own style, to be honest. But if you can pretty much Google any of the top girls and you watch their fight. I mean, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano or
Great
Felicia
fight.
Shields. Yeah, like you can just Google all of these girls and just go, wow, I want to fight like that. You get fired up. It's not women's boxing, it's boxing, So yeah, all of these top girls, like, it's just unbelievable.
Do you talk trash when you fight?
No, it's not my style. I mean, I remember one fight, they gave it a draw, and
Was
I
that
could
the
not
Hills? Was
believe it.
that the Natalie Hills fight?
Yeah, I had my coach in the corner.
Yeah.
I had Johnny Lewis, a boxing Hall of Fame trainer, in my corner, who actually left the corner after 5 rounds and told my coach that, look, obviously Linn has won. Like, there's no way she's lost this fight. So I got to go and prepare another girl. He left the corner, and then they announced it a draw, which it wasn't. So I was upset after that. I didn't talk trash. It wasn't her fault, but
Yeah.
that was not the right result.
Yeah. I saw your facial expression when they read the decision. I watched the fight. I watched it the other day, prepping and whatnot. And then you wound up, I know you fought her later on. All right. So listen, where can everyone follow you, promote, plugs, social media? Where can everyone follow you in clad in clothing, sparring the right way? Let's just, get that out of the way. Mate.
Yeah, so you can follow me boxing on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok under Sandstrom Boxer.
All right. Listen, I greatly appreciate it. And that was on me. I probably should have said, West Coast, East Coast. I just figure you were jet lag. You were a little out of your element. We don't know. But in any event, I'm glad I got you on for a couple of moments. Listen, I wish you the best of luck. I think your mentality and the way your tunnel vision and the way you're presenting yourself, it's going to come across. And now I can turn around when you're, ranked #1 in the world. You have to remember the little people, right? There's no more poppy syndrome. You got to remember the little people in the States. That's all we're asking here.
That's it. Nah, always remember the people that are backed you. That's it.
There you go. And that's why we call the show Back Your Play. There you have it. All right, Linn, I appreciate you greatly. The best of luck. I appreciate you jumping on for a couple moments.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.